Welcome back to Hardly Minding My Business. I am your host, Dashing D. I'm here, feeling a lot better. You see, I got my voice back, thankfully. I'm getting my knees back slowly. Also, they feel way better than they did last week. I mean, it was touch and go for a minute. It was touch and go, but they're a lot better. You know, you gotta keep the ice on it. You gotta take the Tylenol when you need it, and I'm mending myself back together, I gotta say. So that is a good feeling, and I'm going into this new week feeling good. So that's great. I'm gonna get back to my workout routines and, you know, do all the things, and we should be good. So I don't know how much we have to talk about, but there's a couple things that we gotta cover. I'm really in the zone right now of consistency. I really want to be better at that. I'm not good at it right now. I'm gonna be real honest with you, and haven't for a while, but that's a commitment I made to myself recently, that I want to be more consistent with certain things. So hopefully that will trickle down to this podcast, and you'll see a lot more episodes from me going into the new year and for the remainder of the year. So consistency is my word for the remainder of the year. That is what I'm committing to. I tell you one thing though, I have been consistently tired of people in their bullshit lately. I feel like there's just been a lot going on. Like, sometimes corporate America just makes me want to run in the opposite direction. Seriously. Sometimes I'm like, do we have to do this? Do I need to continue? Like, I don't even know what to say without, and you know, we'll do a little fireside chat at some point where I could offload some of the thoughts that I have. But corporate America is the ghetto, okay? It is just the actual ghetto. I can't take it. Sometimes it is just, there is too much bullshit, and you know, there's that. So that's kind of a thought in my head right now. I don't know what that means long term, but I just irritated with it, I think, at this point. And yeah, I mean, I just, you know, some days I wake up and I'm like, I would love to just go and, like, you know, get like a little ice cream cart or something and sell ice cream on the beach. I've talked about that before. And I may, you know, strongly consider it in 2024. I simply don't know, but we will see what happens with that. Other than that, I don't have too much going on. I've kind of been, you know, keeping to myself and keeping quiet the last week or so, just because the previous week was so intense with, you know, being out a lot and hurting myself and having whatever, you know, issue with my voice and all of that. So I figured I would keep it quiet this week. Keep it quiet and cute. And that's what I did. And, you know, I'm good. Which means I actually binged a lot of television. I'm not going to talk too much about what I've been watching, but we'll get to that. Anyway, so petty or not for this week. I have, for the past year almost, I have been making my own coffee at home for the most part, but every now and again, depending on what I'm doing or where I'm going, I'll buy coffee on the go, which I've done previously, and that's fine. My issue is, my petty or not is, can we get these people together? First of all, okay, it depends, right? Like, if I'm in my neighborhood and I'm going to stay in my neighborhood, let's say maybe I want to work for a few hours in a cafe or something like that, I know I'll get good coffee because I'm going to a local spot. Or even, like, if I want a really nice, fun iced tea, I can get that from one of my local cafes. They always have really good pastries, everything, right? that's not usually a problem. And I'm actually really excited. And aside, I'm really excited because my favorite coffee shop that I've been going to since I moved here several years ago now has a location that is near the train. So I can grab, if I'm going into the office, instead of like trying to stop at Starbucks or whatever on my way to work, I can actually stop at my favorite cafe and get my coffee before I get on the train. And it travels pretty well because I don't work that far. I don't live that far from where I work in terms of the commute. So I'm really excited about this. Shout out to Grind in Jersey City because they really hold me down. But outside of that, like when you're going to places like Starbucks or Dunkin' or whatever, a lot of times if I'm passing through the same areas, I'm going to the same Starbucks or I'm going to the same Dunkin' or et cetera, et cetera. If I go to the office, there's a Starbucks that's like in the building right across from mine. So it's very easy for me to grab something from there if I need that sort of thing. Consistency. Speaking of consistency, why is it that I will get the same drink every single time from the same location? Every single time, and every single time I get my drink, it tastes different. The same exact thing. I know what y'all gonna say. Oh, it's a different barista. Don't they have a little guidebook that tells them how to make the drink? I don't make too many modifications. And this is the reason why. I would love to be one of those people who goes into Starbucks and does all this secret menu stuff. I am afraid to do that. You know why? Because they gonna fuck it up anyway. I like to make it so that it's as uncomplicated of an experience for them and myself as possible, right? And we're gonna talk about uncomplicated experiences also. Okay, we got a lot. Ochocinco, we got a lot of consistency and all service, and this is all gonna come out in this podcast. But it is so frustrating. It's like, I don't even want to get certain things. I just don't even, why don't you just give me a black coffee and I'll put some milk in it myself or I'll sweeten it myself because I don't know what else to do at this point. It is just crazy to me that you could order something that is on their menu and every single time you get it, it's different. And not in a good way. Sometimes it's really, really good. And those are the times I say it was made with love. And I love this. And other times it's not. So honestly, why does my white mocha taste different every time I get it? Why does my black tea taste different every time I just don't understand. Anyway, maybe I'm just spoiled because at home I can make my coffee and my iced tea however I want it. I don't know, but a pet peeve of mine indeed, okay? Anyway, speaking of going to places and not getting consistent service, we got to talk about Keith Lee. I wasn't going to talk about Keith Lee. This Keith Lee thing has actually been brewing since last week when I recorded. And I decided not to talk about it because I just felt, first of all, I didn't know how big it was going to get. At the time, it was out there. Somebody sent it to me. Somebody who knows that I'm really, I've been following Keith Lee. I share Keith Lee's videos with people I know. So I've kind of been following his trajectory for a while. I'm not new to his content. I have been following his content on TikTok for about a year, maybe more than a year and a half, something like that. So Keith always comes off as a really kind guy, someone who is very into his faith and very into his family, and someone who is super grateful for the platform that he has created. I think the reason why I started following Keith Lee is because I just found his videos to be really entertaining. He had like a whole, lately he's been doing his videos in his car, and I know he's moved recently because with his success, he was able to, you know, buy his family a house and all of that. But when I first started following him, the thing that I was tickled by was the fact that he would sit in his toddler daughter's chair. It would be like a Paw Patrol chair, I think it was. And he would sit in her chair, he would do a food review, and then he would get up and walk away while the camera is still running. And you would see the you would see the Paw Patrol chair. It was just funny. He would go, God bless you and have a good night, and he would walk off, and there the Paw Patrol chair would be. It was hilarious to me, and I was tickled by it, so I started following him. I quickly learned that his biggest thing about having the platform and having all these followers is that he wanted to make sure that he was helping local businesses, you know, grow their own following and grow their own customer base. And he would get people who would reach out to him and say, hey, my business is struggling. And people call it the Keithley effect now, where he goes to a business and by the next day there's a line down the block and around the corner for this business if he gives his stamp, right? So he's considered a food critic. He's considered, and I mean, rightfully so, right? He critiques food, and as a result, people consume that content, and people take his critiques on food and they go to these restaurants or these bakeries or wherever he goes, and they go try out the food. So I say it all the time, like, I love food content, and that's one of the reasons why I started following him. And I thought what he was doing was great. These days he has to kind of go into places blind, like he'll send his family or he'll order ahead or he'll do things like that because people now recognize him. And for a lot of businesses, they want him to come in there because they know what type of impact he has. So I say all that to say, here's what happened if you don't know what happened. Keithley has been going on these food tours the last few months. I kind of feel like he's setting up for some sort of show or something. But I guess we'll see. He's been going on these food tours. He goes to Atlanta a couple weeks ago, and he takes recommendations from people a lot of the time. So according to him, he got all of these recommendations for these different restaurants in Atlanta. One of them being Old Lady Gang, which is owned by Candy Burris and her family. So very popular restaurant in Atlanta. I've been to Georgia. I've never been to Atlanta. I don't know what the food scene is like. According to everybody, it's shit. Okay, if you ask me. And coming from a place like New York City, like, obviously every experience in terms of the customer service and the overall service of the establishment can vary from restaurant to restaurant. So some of the things that were noticed, some of the things that he said that he had an issue with was that he tried to order online. He couldn't order online. That's pretty typical for like a regular type of restaurant that it doesn't primarily do takeout. They do sit down. They sometimes will turn off on Uber Eats or DoorDash or whatever. That's pretty normal. That didn't seem strange to me. There is a rule, it seems, in Atlanta for a lot of restaurants that are super popular where they don't do any takeout because so many people go to brunch, and the wait times are anywhere between an hour and 2 hours for people to get a table. So it makes sense that they wouldn't want to take takeout orders. There's restaurants over here like that won't take takeout orders. It's not common, but that won't take takeout orders because of the fact that they want to make sure that their kitchen isn't overwhelmed. That's fine. That didn't seem strange to me. I think the biggest issue that people had with this with his review was that he noted that his family went in there and tried to get a table, and they told them an hour and a half wait, something like that. Something within that vicinity. And then he walked into the restaurant, and they saw him, they greeted him, and apparently people from the restaurant had been contacting him, hearing that he was going to be in Atlanta and wanting him to come there. He walks in, and they're like, oh, we have your table, we're getting your table ready, it'll be ready in 5 minutes. So he's like, but how is my table going to be ready in 5 minutes? My family just came to y'all, and y'all said an hour and a half. And they're like, no. They said something like, oh, we called somebody else and they weren't able to, they didn't come when we called them, so we can give you the table. Which was bullshit. We know that people who are considered famous or celebrities get special treatment when it comes to going to restaurants. They're able to call ahead and say, hey, we're going to be there in 5 minutes. Can y'all prepare a table for us? We want the table in the back by the window, blah, 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 blah. And typically restaurants will accommodate that. I don't think that's uncommon. I also, again, don't really know, like, apparently the restaurant isn't that large in size, and maybe that's the problem. I think in New York, like, I don't know. I just feel like this process is a little bit different in New York, because, and maybe there's just a lot more volume too in terms of places you can go. I also don't like frequent places celebrities go. That's not really my vibe, but Atlanta seems to be the type of place where that's kind of like a lot of what's there. I know a lot of people have had the reaction, a lot of locals have been like, well, maybe you should hit up the locals and ask them. Let's be clear. He said that all of the places he went to, he got recommendations. So anyway, this situation happened with another restaurant also. He ended up telling them they could give the table to some other people who were waiting before him and his family got there. The point is, he says he doesn't want special treatment. He just wants to be treated like a regular guy, which is precisely why he doesn't show his face. They weren't able to do takeout, so he wasn't ever able to taste the food, blah, blah, blah. He basically said, please don't go and don't dox them, don't badmouth them, don't put bad Yelp reviews or anything like that. Go to the restaurant. He encouraged people to, even though this was his experience, he encouraged people to have their own experience. This is what he typically does. A lot of times he'll even say he'll eat food and he'll be like, I don't really care for this. This is a 4 out of 10. And he'll say, but I'm not really into textures like this. Maybe you'll like it if you're into textures like this. He's very diplomatic. He's honest, but he's diplomatic about the way he says things, because I think he's very aware that the things he says has impact, and he doesn't want to come off as bad-mouthing anybody. I think he genuinely doesn't want to do that. Here's my problem with the reaction that people had, because people were furious, especially the people of Atlanta. They were like, oh my gosh, he bashed Old Lady Gang. He bashed these restaurants. He slandered them. We gotta stop using language like that for things that don't actually mean that. This man did not bash anyone. And I'm biased. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I am biased because I have been following this man for a long time, and I know that he's not a terrible person. He's not so. I am more inclined to get on my TikTok and say, yo, this tastes like shit, than he is. Okay? Because sometimes I give food reviews, but that's not his style. And it was really weird to see people kind of just hang on. And Atlanta, they call Atlanta the Black Hollywood at this point. You know, it's a big epicenter for media these days, and entertainment. So a lot of people had a lot of things to say because a lot of people frequent the Atlanta area, and a lot of people had this impression, one, they didn't go back and look at his videos, nor did they even look at the original video. They just heard TikTok star reviews restaurant and causes an uproar in the Atlanta food scene. That is what they heard, and people kind of just ran with it, including Chad Ochocinco. I don't usually watch Chad Ochocinco and Shannon Sharp have, I guess it's a podcast. I don't know. They have a show called The Nightcap that comes on every night, where they're kind of just, it's almost like a FaceTime call, and they're kind of just kicking it and talking about different things. And this came up, Shannon Sharp brought it up. Shout out to Shannon Sharp for really defending Keith Lee on this, because I'll tell you why. Ochocinco sounds like a crazy person. He gets on and he says something that honestly a lot of people have been saying. How dare he critique a restaurant? What experience does he have to be able to critique restaurants and their food and their establishments and their service? Who is he to be able to do that? And Ochocinco's perspective was that he has the means, meaning him himself, has the means to go into a restaurant and take care of people. He likes to think that, you know, everyone he encounters when he's in a restaurant experience has probably had a difficult day or probably had a difficult time. He understands that it's really hard to wait on people, and people are assholes, and people are this, people are that. So he turns a blind eye to poor service. He turns a blind eye. He said he does not send food back. He said he does not say anything if his food is cold. And he still rewards them handsomely at the end of the night. When he's done, he said everybody who knows him knows that he'll easily drop a $5,000 tip and keep it moving, regardless of what type of service he gets. When the fuck did we start? When the fuck did we decide that mediocrity was okay? That's fine for Chad Ochocinco. He makes millions of dollars, and if he wants to spend his hard-earned money on poor service, that's fine. The rest of us who don't have $5,000 to blow as a tip on top of the meal we just had that was probably in excess of $1,000, those of us who the money's gonna run out at some point if we're not mindful of the way we spend it. We should be able to decide, I don't like the service here, so one, maybe I'm not gonna go back. Two, I'm not gonna recommend it. Three, if it was bad enough, I should be able to express this to the restaurant, because maybe it will help them provide better service or better food for people in the future. I don't understand this idea where we're supposed to just be like, oh, this is shitty, so I don't care. Like, let me give this person, this waitress was terrible, but let me give her a $200 tip just because she probably had a bad day and that's why she was so terrible. I wish somebody would tip me every time I was terrible. I wish, cause I don't get it. I don't understand. He said the biggest thing that I think that I took away from what Ochocinco said, and he wasn't the only person who said these things, and he did kind of walk it back. He said he spoke to his daughter after he had this conversation with Shannon Sharp, which went viral, and his daughter was like, no, we are Team Keith Lee, so you need to walk that back. So he's been walking it back since then. But one of the things that he said is it's really hard to start a business. It's really hard to be an entrepreneur, and it is especially hard to maintain a restaurant. And he does not feel that people should be critiquing Black restaurants particularly because of the fact that it is so difficult. And we already have it hard in society. So that is the reason why people should not be doing things like this. And this is why he was so against the fact that Keith Lee was honest about his experience in Atlanta. Again, I ask why we are prioritizing mediocrity. There are a lot of things about Black businesses that are great. Namely that these businesses are created by people who look like us. But then there are certain things that come up, and there's this constant conversation about whether we should be able to react or not because it's a Black business. I'm very pro-Black. If you watch this podcast, listen to this podcast, whatever, I'm very pro-Black. I'm very pro-Black. I'm very pro-Black woman. I am very pro-Black business. What I am not is a pretender. What I am not is someone who is going to continue to give my money to somewhere or something or someone that is not, when I'm not having a positive experience. That's just me. And I think that's a lot of people. But there's patience, and then there's this is ridiculous. My point in bringing this up is, what should we do in that case? We should just keep it trucking and not feel any kind of way. I want Black businesses to be successful. I want Black restaurants to be successful. I want to prioritize them when I'm going to a major city and I'm going to sit down for a meal. I would love to. But I also don't want to have a bad experience. And I'm not saying that Keith Lee's experience will stop me from going to any of the restaurants that he mentioned if I were ever in the position to do so. What I'm saying is, what he's doing is not wrong. And what he's doing has helped far more businesses than it has hurt businesses. And we can't be afraid of critique. And we are also sitting in a society right now, just to get off of that, but let's talk about the fact that no one appreciates a negative opinion anymore. We are in a world right now where the only opinions that matter are the positive ones. People can't handle negative opinions. People can't handle constructive criticism. If you say something negative, and I say this all the time, I've said this on the podcast, you say something negative and people automatically think that you hate something, or you will never be okay with something, or it means that you don't like something else. I can say something that is negative and still be able to support something. But we can't continue to sit in a space where saying something that is not positive and praising whatever the thing is the only way. That is not the only way. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. There are positive and negative opinions, and they're all valid. Siskel and Ebert built their fucking names off of critiquing movies. And you know what? Half the time, I didn't agree with Siskel and Ebert. I really didn't. I was like, oh, I love that movie. That was great. Hello? And to the people who say that he doesn't have formal training, nobody fucking has formal training on the internet at this point. Who has formal training to say that, you know, putting an all black outfit with white sneakers and a moto jacket is fashion? Creativity, anything creative, anything like that, anything that comes with again an opinion or something like that is going to come from that person, that individual, and how they view things and their perspective on things. What we do need to prioritize is diversity in that. And Keith Lee is a Black man, and I appreciate the fact that there's a Black man reviewing food out here and who may not have formal training. Y'all, first of all, y'all told us for years that we didn't need college degrees, that college was overrated, and, you know, you can make it out here without any of that shit. And then y'all got the nerve to turn around and talk about this man who eats food every day and has traveled the country eating food and critiquing food. Y'all got the nerve to say that he's not qualified to give his opinion about food. He needs formal training to give his opinion about food. Oh, was he a chef? No, but who gives a fuck that he wasn't a chef? I honestly would rather take the opinion of somebody who has a pretty normal palate, somebody who is not looking for bells and whistles everywhere they go, or is not looking for, you know, formal culinary skills, but people who can play around with flavors and textures and different types of cuisines. And that is a priority for me, not whether you went to culinary school or whether you studied food or hospitality or anything like that. And this whole idea is fucked, because again, we went through the whole era of, oh, you don't need formal training to do things. The only thing you need formal training for is you know, if you want to be a lawyer or a doctor or whatever, et cetera, et cetera. But because this fits, because you're able to shit on this man for no real reason, this is the thing. This is the thing that you need formal training for. Food? You know how long people been food blogging? All right, and he's not writing for the Zagat. It's not like he put in his reviews in the Zagat. And so what if they hired him to do so? So what? Anyway, I didn't expect to speak about this long. I just felt like everything Ochocinco said, you can go and find it and watch it. But I thought it was ignorant, and I'm glad he walked it back. And shout out to Shannon Sharp for really defending Keith Lee. We should talk about Lauryn Hill. We gotta talk about Lauryn Hill. We gotta talk about Lauryn Hill. Before we get to Lauryn Hill, though, there's a lot of Bravo in my timeline. There's actually no tweet of the week, because all I see in my Twitter timeline right now is BravoCon, and there's a lot of stuff going on with that. I know that an expose came out. Variety put out an expose where they really went deep into what's going on with the Real Housewives in different parts of the franchise. And I'm going to read that, and we are going to talk about the next episode. I just did not have the time to read the article. It's exposing some of the racism. It's exposing some of the conditions that the women have when they're on set. And I want to talk about that because you know how much I love TV, and you know I've been watching the Housewives for years, even though I've slowed down a lot lately. But we will talk about that, and we will also talk about Real Housewives of New York's reunion and my final opinions on the new cast, because I have thoughts. But we're not going to talk about that today because I really want to read that article before we discuss that. But I do want to talk about Lauryn Hill. Lauryn Hill just did a show in LA. It was her mom's birthday. They brought out a cake. She sang happy birthday to her. Lauren's kid came out. I want to play y'all the audio. Y'all lucky I make it on this blood rise stage every night. That she did.
Because we're the survivors. And we're not just the survivors, we're the thrivers.
All right. Okay. So let's talk about Lauryn Hill, because, you know, Lauryn Hill is touring right now, and I've heard a lot of mixed reviews. I wasn't going to talk about it, but here we are. I saw this video today. and I felt like, let's address it. I saw Lauryn Hill perform this year. I feel like I am a good person to have this conversation. I do entertainment commentary. Y'all might ask what background I have. I have a degree in communications and media, by the way, but that's not the point. The point is, and I just want to be clear, like, my degree don't mean shit. My degree did not teach me any of the things that I know and any of the things that I sit here and I talk about week in and week out, or month in and month out, whatever the case may be. The commentary that I give based on entertainment and my perspective is actually comes from partly my professional experience, partly because I love to consume pop culture in any way you're gonna give it to me. Give me a great book, give me a great show, give me art, give me music, whatever. That's where my perspective comes from. I may not have formal training in a lot of the stuff that I talk about, but who the fuck cares? I have an opinion, and there are people who want to hear my opinion, so I give it. And sometimes I say things that are negative. Sometimes I say things that are super positive. The point of the matter is, I saw Lauryn Hill perform this year. And when I went to Roots Picnic back in June. And she was one of the main reasons I wanted to go to Roots Picnic. And I am very familiar with the album that she's talking about, that she has, I think we all are. The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill was a pivotal album in hip hop, in R&B. Like, Lauryn Hill, black music. The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill is iconic, all right? For years, people have talked about the fact that Lauryn Hill shows up to her shows late. My fear when I went to Roots Picnic was that she was going to arrive way later than she was scheduled to go on. That was not the case. She maybe came out 15 minutes after the start of the show, which I didn't think anything of because everything was kind of off schedule. When you go to festivals, it may start on time, but it doesn't end on time. Like, everything kind of ends up getting staggered and things change throughout the day. That wasn't weird to me. I'll just give my, recollection of her performance before I address this. It was great. I had a great time. I thought she sounded great. I thought that she kind of, in the first part of the show, she was cool, but I feel like towards the second part of the show, she really found her footing and she sounded way better. She brought out Praz and Wyclef to perform with her. It was a great show. The one thing that I did notice in the show, and I think I've been hearing a lot of critique on lately with people going to her tour, her 25th anniversary tour, is that Lauryn Hill does not own the rights to her music. This is an aside. Lauryn Hill does not own the rights to her music, so she cannot perform her music the way that we know the music from the album. As a result, she has had to switch up the arrangement of the music in order to perform it. She cannot perform the music as it is. That being said, people get a bit of a shock when they go see Lauryn Hill perform because the music sounds a bit different. The music is arranged a bit different. I recall going and thinking, wow, this sounds a little bit different, and having to remember she cannot perform this music so the way that we know it. So you either have to appreciate it for the way it was arranged, or you're not gonna have a good time. So anybody who is thinking about going to see Lauryn Hill and hasn't seen her, that's something that you should keep in mind if you're interested in going to see her. I will say that. For me, I had a great experience. I thought it was great. I wouldn't change it. I thought it was fine. Sure, some of the songs I was like, I kind of wish I would have heard this the way that it was originally recorded, but I could also listen to the Miseducation whenever I want if I want to hear it that way. When you see someone live, you also have to realize, like, yes, there are people who sound exactly the same live as they do on the track. Busta Rhymes. Busta Rhymes is somebody who I could watch him live any day because it literally sounds like you're sitting there listening to him. Like, coming out of a speaker, but it's actually him in the flesh. And I freaking love that. That is not the case for every artist. If you like live music, you would have to understand that it's not always going to sound exactly how you want it. Especially when people sing. I feel like people rearrange music a lot when they sing. In any event, what Lauryn Hill said, if you did not hear that well, I'm sorry the audio wasn't that great. But if you did not hear what she said people talk about how she's late and people are lucky that she comes out at all. And that, you know, no one came to her and asked her. She does this by the grace of God. I'm paraphrasing. She does this by the grace of God, and no one came to her and asked her to do another album. So she's just been singing the same album for the last 25 years because of it. And, you know, and it sounded like she was trying to justify why she shows up late. Lauryn Hill, Miss Hill, ma'am, no. We can't accept that. We can't accept that. People have said that they have gone to Lauryn Hill shows and waited 3 hours for this woman to come on. People pay their money to go to these shows. Especially when it's a dedicated show. Like, I didn't know what I was gonna get when I was at a festival waiting for Lauryn Hill to come out. But if you go and you buy a ticket to Lauryn Hill's actual show, her show, she's the headliner, that is it, and you gotta sit there for 2 hours waiting for this woman to come on, I don't like that. That's not okay. I'm not into that. No. I think it's a bit arrogant. I think it's a bit obnoxious to say you're lucky I came out at all. Girl, why? You know that people will not come to your show. Like, I get that there are people who want to hear it live, but the more people hear about the fact that the music is not going to sound the same, and the more you come out and you're indignant about the fact that you do not show up on time, and you kind of spit in people's faces who do sit there and wait for you, who do spend their money to see you perform live. It's just like, girl, but that's not cool, and people gonna stop going to your show. They will. Lauryn Hill's Miseducation is not the only album out there that is iconic and amazing, and we got plenty of other music to listen to. No one is exempt from, again, giving good service, providing quality to others, especially when people are paying for something. You are not exempt. You just simply aren't. You're not. No matter how much you think you are. No matter how great you think you are. Because, girl, I don't know if you noticed, but plenty of people have been saying that they don't like your show. And they wish they got their money back for the show because they feel like they saw something that wasn't what they went to see or what they paid to see. I disagree with that. But it is a critique and it is a reaction that is out there. And I think that she needs to keep that in mind when she getting on stage and telling y'all that she don't give a fuck about being late. I just feel like, leave it alone. You ain't even have to address it. You ain't even have to say anything. You want to keep being late. I think it's shitty, but that's fine. If people are still willing to pay, but I think the moment you start getting up in people's faces and being like, and what you gonna do? People will revolt and people will not subscribe to your brand of bullshit. Let me get into what I'm watching so we can wrap this up. So what I'm watching, I've been watching a lot of random things and nothing that I really want to talk about too much. But I did watch that show on Apple TV with Idris Elba, Hijack. I watched Hijacked. It was great. It was very suspenseful. I don't like the way it ended. I thought the ending was really weird. It's a limited series, so I don't think there will be a season 2, which I think I would have been satisfied with the ending if there was going to be a season 2. But this was just kind of strange, and I don't know. I liked it though. I thought it was really interesting. I kept thinking that Idris Elba was gonna, like, I don't want to give anything away, but I kept thinking that that Idris Elba was gonna, like, switch sides towards the end. Like, I felt like he was being dishonest. Anyway, I thought it was really fascinating, really interesting. It had me going. I needed to know what was going to happen next. It was great. I would highly recommend. Also on Apple TV, The Morning Show. I've been watching The Morning Show. I don't know. This season is weird because they harken back to COVID, and they talk about a lot of the race-related conversations that happened after the pandemic began. So they're dealing with a lot of things that happen in the media. They're kind of mimicking that experience on The Morning Show. If you're into that, you should definitely check it out. It is, rather than centering the original white characters who were on the show, in season 1, you're seeing that they're centering characters of color more in this season, which is really interesting. We're finding out a lot more about the lives of Stella and, oh my gosh, what is the black lady's name? I can't remember her name right now. Damn it. But she's the same person who plays the professor on And Just Like That. She's on this as well. And yeah, I like the fact that they're exploring their lives in the newsroom and outside of it. I think that that's really interesting. So I've been watching The Morning Show. I'm a couple of episodes behind, but I'm gonna catch up and we can talk more about what's actually happening there. The last thing that I'll say is people have been asking me to watch Love Island. I found out how long the seasons are. They're like 20 something episodes a season. I think one season has 30 episodes. That scared me, I gotta be honest. For a dating show, I just felt like it was too many episodes. Also, I know there's a UK version, there's a US version, and different people have different perspectives. Like, oh, watch the UK version, it's better. Or watch this season of the US version. So I started with season 2 because the last person who told me to watch it started there, and was like, yeah, this is this is one of those shows that will hook you. Okay, I'm okay with it being one of those shows that will hook me. It's very weird, like the selection process where they make, at least this is what I saw in the first episode of season 2, where they made the women step forward if they were interested in the man that was standing in front of them, and then that really means nothing, because the man can then pick any woman standing there, whether she stepped forward showing interest in him or not. It gets a little weird. And I'm trying not to notice that the black girl was picked last and like basically got the leftover man. I'm trying not to notice that, but I notice it. So we'll see. I'll keep watching it for a couple episodes and see if I like it. If y'all watch Love Island, let me know. Is there a season that I should be watching? Is it true that the UK is better? Like, y'all gotta let me know and we could take it from there. I'm happy to recap. I know there's a season happening right now. Maybe I should just start watching the new season. I'm happy to recap it, but I kind of need some guidance because I don't really know. Right now, I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I want to do this, but we'll see. I'll check it out a little bit more and I'll see what's going on. And like I said, there's no tweet of the week this week, so I guess that means this is our show. I will be back next week, and I hope y'all have a good week. Bye.